this gospel passage, that of Zacchaeus, always brings back a happy memory for me. My first assignment, 11 years ago now, was at the cathedral. And at the cathedral, they had a cook. She was about this big, her name was Dolly. She was an old Irish woman. And, we had many good memories of just sitting at the table, a cup of coffee, just talking. She passed away a couple of years ago now. But because she was short, she would always have me reach up on the top cabinets to grab the plates, and our cereal was there on the top shelf type of thing. And so as I would always help her out, she would always say to me and Zacchaeus got gypped. that was her phrase. That's why I always think of her, that type of thing. So, but with all that, this one's for all the short people out there. All right, this homily's dedicated to you. Okay, all those who feel they got gypped. There's always these little innocent details in the gospel passage that have big theological meaning to them. Let me just share with you a couple of them. The first is that all this is happening at a town called Jericho. If you know your Old Testament, Jericho was the place where the walls came tumbling down. If you remember singing that song when you were a kid, the walls of Jericho. Jericho is a border city. So it's at the border of, I wish I could remember the name, but a Gentile country which borders the province of Judea, where the city of Jerusalem is in. That's where Jesus is heading to in this gospel passage. And kind of like what we do in our states, what do we have? We have tolls. If you go from one state to another, depending on, the state and their laws, you have to pay a toll. Same with countries. You come into a country, sometimes you have to pay a custom tax on your goods and so forth. And that's what Jericho was. There was a big customs post there. And Zacchaeus, he was not just any tax collector, he was the chief tax collector, which means everyone knew who he was. And it turns out that as everyone knew who he was, they also knew, pardon my term here, that he was a scumbag. He made a living taking money from his own people and giving it to the enemies, the Roman Empire. And not only that, as he was taking money as a tax collector from them and giving it to the enemies, he was also overcharging them and keeping the money for himself. So he was a crook, a thief. And everyone knew it. It's one of those things when a corruption becomes customary, corruption happens all the time, it kind of just becomes part of life. You know what I mean? You just kind of accept it. The Romans didn't care as long as they got their money. So that's the important thing here is he was well known and everyone knew he was a shady person. Something's happening though in his life. As the popularity of Jesus becomes even more, bigger, larger crowds are following him. He wants to see him. So there has to be something going on internally where the type of life he's living is not very fulfilling. This type of life is a life with what? It's all about fulfilling one's own self-desires. When we live from pleasure to pleasure, and it only gets worse in 2022 because the pleasures, the fixes to the pleasures come quicker. All we have to do is go to our phones, go to the computer. If we're hungry, we just go to a fast food restaurant. We want everything instant now. And we're so conditioned that as soon as there's one level of discomfort, we have to satisfy it completely. And it leads to a very boring life. We just find ourselves wanting more and more. And maybe Zacchaeus is coming to that realization now, that the way he's living is lifeless. There's no meaning, no purpose to his life. Maybe Jesus can answer. And so that's why, as the crowds come, as Jesus comes, he can't see him, that he actually, again, has a chief public official, as kind of like a celebrity of the town. He embarrasses himself by running, which was, people of importance didn't do that. And they most certainly did not climb a tree. You know, kids do that. But not a public official. And yet here we are. The desire to find some sort of purpose and meaning in life is so great that he finds himself on a tree. And now this is where God now invites himself into our lives. See, the desire is there. The desire to have a purpose and meaning in life is there in Zacchaeus. Maybe it's in ours now. Now it's going to be God's turn, God's job to now come in, to enter and invite himself to our house, to our souls. And now be the purpose and meaning and the fulfillment of that desire for a more meaningful life. Notice how it's Jesus who invites himself into his house. And so he comes down the tree, and this is probably my favorite part, and maybe the most important part of this whole passage. As he comes down the tree, as he sees Jesus, what is happening to Zacchaeus? Everyone is pointing at him and telling Jesus what a rotten person he is. You know, the line is, you know, Luke gives us a line that he has stayed at a house of a sinner. But I can imagine it just in that situation, it's just not that one simple little line. It's this constant finger pointing and people telling him and telling Jesus just how this guy has hurt them. The accusations. The accusations. We have those accusations. We have those interior accusations. Telling ourselves, interiorly in our thoughts, in our hearts, telling ourselves what? You know, I'm a bad father, I'm a bad husband, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad mother, I'm a bad neighbor, I'm a bad Catholic. You know, I'm stupid. I have the same habits over and over again. The accusations. We have them. That's how the evil one works. The actual name Satan means accuser. All he does is point and tell you that there's no hope in life and tell you your life is meaningless. That's what Zacchaeus is experiencing at that moment. And Jesus is not interested in any of that. He knows all this. He knows his lifestyle. He knows it. And yet he wants to come into the house. You know, what do we do when we have a guest coming over for dinner? What's the first thing we do before they come over? Well, we want to clean the house, right? We want to make sure all house is in order. We don't want our guests to come in and see dysfunction in the house. Just this Tuesday, we had confirmation. Did you see the sacristy back there? It's nice and clean. All the clutter's gone. We don't want the bishop to see clutter. But Jesus wants none of that. He wants to come into the messiness. He wants to see the messiness. Not to condemn us, but to save us. You know, he calls you as already a flawed and broken person. It's not like, okay, get it together, get your life together, you know, then I have something for you. It's while we are flawed and broken people, he invites himself in for the very purpose of healing and salvation. He's calling Zacchaeus because he wants to change his life and give his life a purpose. But we work the opposite way, don't we? We have friends and family members who aren't here because they're stuck in this mindset of, well, God doesn't love me because of this, and this. Like there's people who think like that. That's why they're not here. But we have to tell them that it's actually the opposite. As it says in the very last line, that the Son of Man has come to seek and to save what was lost. He wants to save what has been messy. He wants to help us with the cleanup process. Because he sees us ultimately as his beloved sons and daughters. That's how God views us. That's our identity. He doesn't want to lose us. That's why he's going out to find us. That's why he's invited himself to our homes, to our souls. Because of exactly that, we are his beloved sons and daughters. He wants to save us. And God bless you.